Global mutation. Everyone will turn into the last animal they ate. Someone ate a bowl of beef noodles and transformed into an ancient black dragon with world-shaking power. Someone gnawed on a fried chicken leg and transformed into an immortal phoenix reborn from the fire. But in my previous life, I casually ate braised chicken rice and only awakened useless singing, dancing, and rapping skills. In the cold reality of a beast tide where the weak are prey to the strong, I didn't last long before meeting a tragic end. Now I have been reborn back to the eve of the cataclysm. Knowing all the truths about the coming apocalypse in advance, I proceed step by step, with precise planning, swearing to stand upon the supreme throne of this beast-morphed world. The first target I locked onto was the owl. It is born with ultimate night vision and hearing sensitivity far exceeding most creatures on Earth. As long as I can obtain the owl's talent, I can completely ignore the dangers of the night. In the peril-filled dark nights of the apocalypse, I will become the unshakable king of the night. The second essential choice is the American electric eel. Within its body, it can release a powerful high-voltage current of over 800 volts. In my previous life, a beast-morphed powerhouse relied on the electric eel's talent to run rampant in the apocalypse, with no one daring to provoke them. After making up my mind, I immediately searched the internet for all kinds of god-tier creatures with powerful physics. A seemingly unremarkable ant instantly caught my attention. An ordinary ant can carry objects 400 times its own weight. And the bullet ant is a top-tier ruthless character among the ant tribe, ranked among the top 10 most venomous creatures globally. The owl can give me ultimate night vision and super-sensitive hearing perception. The American electric eel can give me the powerful ability to control high-voltage lightning. The bullet ant will let me inherit the ant's god-tier strength and also unlock incredible bite force and lethal venom. Stinger, combat power, perception, and venom, everything is ready. But I still lack the most core defensive capability. In the cruel apocalypse, if your defense is weak, no matter how strong your attack is, sooner or later you'll be hunted by other mutants, or become a meal for mutated ferocious beasts. Since I'm living a second life, I must forge myself into a hexagonal all-rounder war god with no weaknesses. Speaking of defense, is it more suitable to choose a turtle or a crocodile? In my previous life, I personally saw someone eat crocodile meat before the cataclysm. After mutating, their whole body was covered in crocodile-scale armor. Strength, bite force, and physical defense were all incredibly powerful. Some netizens in the comments recommended the armadillo, saying its shell is as hard as natural armor. Even ordinary bullets can be deflected. But armadillos are a national protected endangered species. There's no way to obtain one legally. I abandoned that option immediately. While I was thinking, I suddenly thought of the water bear with its god-tier vitality. As long as I can before the cataclysm arrives, eat a sufficient amount of water bears, I can inherit its immortal physique. This creature is said to survive forever. As long as the sun does not perish, it can withstand extreme high and low temperatures and extreme environments with super high pressure. Even if thrown into outer space and exposed to nuclear radiation, as long as it's not at the center of a nuclear blast, it can remain unharmed. More importantly, water bears are found everywhere in the world, in damp soil, moss, and water films. It's the easiest god-tier trump card to obtain. But then a problem arose. How do you process a water bear for consumption, when even outer space can't kill it? I immediately looked up professional science materials online and finally figured out its weakness. The water bear's body is transparent. It automatically dehydrates when facing harsh environments, curling up into a barrel shape. Scientists once put it in 150-degree heat, an extreme cold of -200 degrees, and it could still revive after returning to normal temperature. Atomic bomb-level nuclear radiation, and 6 times the water pressure of the Mariana Trench, could not kill it. But it has a fatal weakness. Irradiation with UV germicidal lamps can kill it completely in 15 minutes and cause it to lose all activity within 24 hours. High-temperature steam and open flames can also kill it. After mastering all the key information, I immediately started racing against time. Only 3 days are left before the mutation catastrophe. I must hurry to prepare my exclusive mutation ingredients. First, I bought a microscope and UV germicidal lamps online. Killing water bears with UV lamps is the most reliable way. It prevents losing the tiny organisms. The outskirts of the small town where I live are all farmland and forests, with moss growing everywhere. It's the perfect gathering place for water bears. I immediately went into the mountains to collect a large amount of moss and lichen, ready to go back and filter out the water bears. On the way to collect materials, a salamander about a dozen centimeters long crawled through the grass by the roadside. I suddenly remembered. This creature has an incredibly powerful self-healing talent, with the god-tier ability to regenerate limbs. I quickly went online to confirm with netizens. After getting the accurate answer that salamanders can regenerate indefinitely and have extremely tough vitality, I was instantly thrilled. The water bear's immortal physique, combined with the salamander's limb regeneration ability. With these two god-tier talents stacked, I would be practically invincible in the apocalypse. I took the salamander home first to raise it properly. Then I rode my motorcycle to the county mall, bought the UV germicidal lamps, and specially prepared high-elasticity clothing to prevent my clothes from being ruined when my body size explodes during mutation. At the same time, I sent private messages to major breeding bloggers on short video platforms, intending to buy owls, American electric eels, and bullet ants at a high price. By the time I finished everything, it was already evening. I had a simple dinner outside, then went to the school to borrow a microscope, beakers, droppers, and a full set of experimental equipment to facilitate the subsequent separation and collection of water bears. Following the online tutorials, I let the moss soak for 24 hours, then squeezed out the water, placed a drop on a slide, and observed it under the microscope. Perhaps it was the good luck brought by rebirth. During my first observation, I found a 0.1 millimeters water bear. This organism is completely invisible to the naked eye. Trying to collect several hundred of them requires a lot of time and energy. After working for a long time, I only found 12. Presumably, the moss hadn't soaked long enough, and most water bears hadn't detached from the moss yet. But as long as the method works, it's enough. I don't need to waste all my time solely on collecting water bears. Just then, a notification popped up on my phone. Joe Ziming, a blogger who specializes in insect breeding, with over 100,000 fans from ant-related content, had replied to my private message. Early the next morning, I first checked on the salamander I was raising. It was still in a lively state. No need to process and refrigerate it yet. Then I went as scheduled to Joe Ziming's private breeding base. The glass tanks in the base were filled with all kinds of niche insects, and in the corner sat the bullet ants I desperately needed. Joe Ziming cherished the bullet ants exceptionally. Even the deceased ones were made into specimens and carefully preserved. I directly asked to buy 50 live bullet ants, and wanted some dead specimens too. Without hesitation, I transferred the money. Ziming Joe quietly regretted quoting such a low price. He was also very curious. Why do I even want dead insects? While wandering around the base, 2 beetles that looked like lumps of iron caught my attention. Ziming Joe explained, they're ironclad beetles. They're said to have the toughest exoskeletons in the natural world, capable of withstanding nearly 40,000 times their body weight in pressure. If you scaled up their physical defenses proportionally, they'd be the ultimate in nature. Hearing this, I was ecstatic inside. Isn't this exactly the prototype of the armored beast that swept through the apocalypse in my previous life? I immediately added the ironclad beetles to my must-buy list. Ziming Joe could tell I was determined to get them. He instantly raised the price. Frankly admitted these rare species aren't cheap. They cost thousands or even tens of thousands. After some bargaining, I finally bought 2 ironclad beetles for 20,000 yuan. Now I only had a little over 10,000 left. I still needed money for an American eel and an owl. So I asked Ziming Joe about channels to buy American eels. He actually knew a friend from our aquarium circle. That friend had recently got an American eel, but can't seem to keep it alive. Now the eel is in poor condition. It won't survive much longer. That seller heard someone wanted to buy it for a high price, and immediately quoted 5,000 yuan. Ziming Zhou doubled it when reselling, and asked me for 10,000. Time was running out. I didn't bother to haggle. Agreed to the deal on the spot. Ziming Zhou secretly mocked me for being naive and rich. He had no idea that, after the apocalypse, even piles of cash will turn into worthless paper. We quickly went to the seller's place. Confirmed the eel in the tank was a purebred American eel. I immediately transferred the payment and finished the deal. The seller kindly reminded me to quickly acclimate and care for the eel. But I bluntly said I'd heard eel meat was delicious, and planned to cook and eat it directly. Both of them were stunned by that response, and regretted quoting too low a price. Since I was already in the provincial capital, I went over to the pet market. Bought a captive-bred owl. Wild owls are protected by the state, strictly forbidden to be traded. But captive-bred owls also have top-tier night vision and hearing abilities, perfectly meeting my needs. I paid 3,000 yuan for the best one. At this point, I'd gathered all core beast evolution ingredients. By the time I got home, the eel I bought was already dead. I didn't feel any regret. Immediately cleaned and processed it. Put it in the freezer, planning to cook it right before the catastrophe. In that moment, I finally understood the underlying rules of metamorphosis. People think that on the day of catastrophe, any undigested animal meat in their body will be infused with apocalypse energy, letting them inherit corresponding animal abilities. But that's just surface-level deception. The real truth of transformation, no one has truly figured out. I paused collecting tardigrades temporarily, to ensure that on transformation day, my stomach wouldn't have any other meat residue. For 2 days, I only ate plant-based foods to cleanse my digestive tract. At this point, I had 6,000 yuan left. Decided to spend it all, and went to the town blacksmith's shop for self-defense weapons. Ordinary knives couldn't withstand the fierce battles of the apocalypse. Axes and heavy hammers suited for later massive strength, and my thunder powers were the best early choices. I scoured every farm equipment shop in town, only finding an 8-kilogram wall demolition sledgehammer. Barely enough for early-stage monster fights and chaos. Then, got high-calorie crocodile meat chocolate, and bought a mechanical pocket watch. After the apocalypse begins, electricity will be totally cut off. Day and night become indistinguishable. Only mechanical clocks can precisely track time. When I got back home, I sealed the collected tardigrades for storage. Roasted and crushed ordinary ants. Made ant chocolate bites for easy eating. Processed 5 pounds of crocodile meat into meatballs, and gave them to the homeroom teacher who helped me in my previous life. Checked all the ingredients I'd purchased. Artificially bred owl, dead American eel, 50 live bullet ants, plus several ant corpses, 2 ironclad beetles, and live molten bugs, as well as sealed tardigrades, properly prepared crocodile meat, all in order. All neatly stacked in the fridge and storage room. Looking at my arsenal of game-changing options, I felt steady as a rock inside. In my lost life, I was mediocre, at everyone's mercy. This time I hold 10 top-tier beast evolution talents, destined to shake up the apocalypse. I followed the transformation rules I worked out, and ate accordingly. First, I swallowed specially made bullet ant chocolate bites. The warm fruit entered my gut. A surge of heat instantly settled in my limbs. The source of immense strength and poisonous sting subtly fused into my body. Next, I ate the properly cleaned ironclad beetle meat. The shell was hard and dry, really tough to chew and swallow. I forced myself through the discomfort and gulped it all down. Suddenly, all my skin tightened. An invisible, heavy armor layered my body. The essence of physical defense against extreme pressure slowly took root inside me. Then I ate the solid crocodile meatballs. Wild, overwhelming force swept through my body. Scales hardened, with beast-like biting power and close combat instinct, all solidified within me. Finally, I ate the owl meat and the American eel meat in turn. All the top-tier beast evolution sources I'd planned ahead were kept in my gut. Throughout, I was extremely careful, avoiding any contamination by other meats. Ensured my stomach was clean and pure. After finishing, I rinsed my mouth thoroughly, and didn't eat anything else. Quietly waited for the coming beast evolution disaster. At dusk, the sky suddenly darkened. The entire sky was enveloped by bizarre dark purple clouds. The air felt heavy and stagnant, weighing down on everyone's chest. The streets were still buzzing with crowds. People were chatting and wandering around. The night market was lively. Countless people had no idea the end was near. Still grilling skewers, eating and drinking sweets, totally unaware the food they were eating then would forever determine their limits during the apocalypse. At midnight sharp, a colossal invisible bang echoed across the world. No deafening sound waves, but it exploded deep in every soul. World energy poured down. Global transformation officially began. Invisible tremors pierced the earth and sky. Dark purple skies crashed down. Streetlights flickered frantically. Crackling loudly, tube lights burst one after another. In an instant, the bustling night market was plunged into a boundless, deadly silence. Only eerie purple haze flooded the streets. A chilling apocalyptic aura swept every corner. The silence lasted only half a second. Not far away, the man who was just devouring grilled lamb suddenly convulsed violently all over. His skin, flesh, and bones expanded and twisted uncontrollably. Thick black-brown fur burst out through his skin. In mere moments, he transformed into a ferocious black-brown ram. His eyes turned blood-red. All humanity vanished from his gaze, and a savage, beastly violence took over. The mutation of the girl beside him was completely different. Silent, yet impossibly eerie. Her body visibly softened at an alarming rate. Faint blue water light shimmered around her. In a flash, her whole form turned into a delicate, translucent element of water. Terror surged through the street like a tidal wave. All kinds of beastly transformations played out before their eyes. Everyone's fate had already been silently sealed by their last meal. At the entrance of a beef bone soup shop, a middle-aged man who had just put down his bowl suddenly hunched over. His body abruptly hardened and swelled. Muscles and bones expanded madly. He completely lost all humanity. Overtaken by brute rage, he lowered his head and charged with full force, with monstrous strength. Directly sent the whole city bus flying through the air. It crashed heavily into a roadside shop. Bricks and tiles shattered. Steel beams bent. Dust instantly billowed everywhere. In the alley behind the Bullfrog Stir-Fry restaurant on the other side, a man kneeling and convulsing on the ground. His skin quickly became slick and mottled. His entire face morphed into the ugly features of a toad. His long crimson tongue shot out suddenly, instantly wrapping around a fleeing bystander. With a swift pull, he dragged and swallowed the person whole. Countless boils on his back exploded all at once, releasing a foul, corrosive acid, spilled on the ground. The surface sizzles and smokes, rapidly dissolving and corroding. At this moment, the most primal and brutal law of the jungle has fully descended. I stand by the window on the second floor of my house, coldly watching the chaos below. Right then, a furious roar suddenly erupts from the building next door. A massive black wolf-like beast, over 2 meters tall, comes into view. It bursts through the hallway and shatters the security window with a single swipe. After landing, its gaze sweeps across the fleeing crowd, randomly locking onto a lone female. It lowers its body and charges at her. The girl is so scared her legs go weak. She can't even run. She's about to become prey for the wolf, but everyone around is only focused on running for their lives. No one dares to step in. My gaze turns cold. Although I don't want to take action and stand out so early, letting someone die without helping is also in line with apocalypse rules. But senselessly bullying the weak, I just can't stand it. Might as well take this opportunity to test my real combat strength with all my talents stacked. Thinking of this, I turn around and head downstairs. An 8-kilogram demolition sledgehammer gripped in my hand. With a swift move, I activate my night vision fully. The darkness becomes as clear as daylight. The sound of wind in my ears and the beast's heartbeat are both crystal clear. Moving lightly with my steps, I'm already out of the hallway. My speed far surpasses average mutants. At this moment, the black wolf beast is about to pounce on the girl, but it senses movement behind it and suddenly turns its head. Scarlet eyes lock onto me, letting out a deep, menacing growl. I'm holding the giant hammer with one hand. Faint arcs of lightning dance around me. Heavy armor defense envelops my whole body. Looking down from above, staring at him coldly. Behave and get lost. The black wolf beast is stunned by my inexplicable presence. It hesitates for a split second. Then its ferocity explodes. All four legs kick off the ground, charging straight at me with a foul wind. I neither dodge nor avoid. My mutant strength is fully unleashed. Muscles in my arms swell rapidly. I swing the sledgehammer in a sweeping arc. Boom, a muffled explosive crash. Amazingly, I smash the black wolf beast flying several meters with one blow. It slams heavily into the wall. Bones shatter all over its body. Howling in agony, he looks up in disbelief. Clearly, I look ordinary in size, but my strength, defense, and presence completely overwhelm him by more than one level. The panic-stricken bystanders who were running away are now all frozen in place, looking at me in utter shock. After severely injuring the black wolf beast with one swing, the black wolf struggles to get up, its fur covered in dirt, unbearable pain radiating from its broken bones. A hint of fear finally appears in those once blood-red beast eyes. Next, it tucks its tail and lets out a whimpering howl. Dragging its mangled body, it limps away into the dark alley. The rescued girl's legs are still jelly. She stumbles nervously in front of me, her voice trembling as she thanks me over and over. I glance at her indifferently, my tone flat and emotionless. No need to thank me. In this world, you can only rely on yourself.
Take care of yourself.
With that, I ignore her, turn around and get ready to head back home. But after just a few steps, a dense, rapid skittering sound suddenly comes from the green belts on both sides of the street, emanating from the shadows at the wall's edges. My owl-like hearing instantly picks up on the abnormality. I frown slightly. The next moment, countless thumbtack-sized black ants swarm out from everywhere, thick as a blanket, flooding madly toward the center of the street. Wherever they pass, even the weeds on the ground are consumed. They're a mutant ant swarm, the apocalyptic energy ravaging the area, affected not just humans, but mutated every insect and beast out there. These once unremarkable ants are now extremely aggressive. Pedestrians still on the street are instantly surrounded by the ant horde. Screams erupt one after another. The girl behind me turns deathly pale in fear, clinging tightly to my back, her voice shaking. So many ants. What do we do? Are we going to die here? My eyes turn icy. Faint blue currents of electricity crackle around me. Perfect, these mutant ants. Give me a chance to try out my electric eel voltage powers and see just how powerful they are. I stand my ground without moving. With a thought, 800 volts surges through my body, instantly releasing a high voltage current that surges into the ground through both feet. A harsh crackling of electricity fills the air. Blue arcs of lightning radiate from me, spreading outward in all directions instantaneously. The mutant ants that come into contact with the current are immediately electrocuted, charred black, collapsing in swaths. The smell of burning fills the air, but there are just too many ants. As soon as the front ranks are killed, new ones keep swarming up behind, showing no sign of retreat. Area of effect electric attack isn't efficient enough, so I instantly adopt a new tactic. The poisonous bullet ant ability kicks in. A faint violet toxin glows from my fingertips. Combined with the current flowing around me, any ant coming within 3 meters of me is either electrocuted by high voltage or instantly poisoned to death. Meanwhile, I activate full defense, combining ironclad beetle and crocodile traits. Even if a few ants manage to crawl onto me, they can't bite through. My body, as tough as armored steel, won't even get scratched. The indestructible tardigrade resilience, plus the eternal gift ability, means I have nothing to worry about. Even if I'm injured, I'll recover instantly, within just a few minutes. There's a thick layer of ant corpses at my feet, forming a barrier against the next swarm. The girl hiding behind me stares in awe. I swept aside the terrifying ant horde effortlessly. Her eyes are full of disbelief and admiration. After dealing with the ant threat in front of us, I was just about to tell her to leave on her own, when a deafening beast's roar suddenly echoed in the distance. A giant stray dog, almost 3 meters tall, comes into sight, with fangs bared, rampaging straight toward us. Behind him are more than a dozen humans wielding sticks and knives, their eyes fierce and ruthless. Clearly a gang of post-cataclysm mutants. Now they're chasing the stray dog mutant, wanting to hunt him down to seize his resources. But the very next second, the situation flips instantly. The giant dog suddenly, turning around, it slapped down the person at the front with one paw, instantly biting through their throat. Blood splattered all over the ground. The others' faces paled with terror, no longer daring to continue the pursuit. They turned and scattered to flee for their lives. After the giant wild dog killed one person, its gaze swept across the street, locking onto me in an instant. It seemed to sense that the aura on me was unusual. It had targeted me as its new prey. With a roar, it charged toward me with ferocity, at an astonishing speed. My gaze darkened. I didn't want to go looking for trouble, but trouble kept finding me. Since it's coming straight for me, I'll just use this high-rank wild dog mutant beast to test my full combat power with all my talents stacked. Thinking this, I gripped the 8 kilograms demolition sledgehammer in one hand. Bullets' heaven-defying monstrous strength erupted in full, veins bulging in my arms, lightning coiling around my body. I stood my ground, quietly waiting for it to charge. The surviving bystanders all held their breath, watching this scene from a distance. The giant wild dog arrived in a flash, opening its blood-red maw, and lunged at my neck with a fierce, stench-filled wind, trying to kill me in a single bite. My eyes were cold as I stepped forward instead of retreating. I kicked off the ground with force, my body leaping up instantly. Using my night vision, I precisely locked onto its skull. My entire body's power converged, my arm raised high, and the sledgehammer smashed down with a whistling wind. A deafening boom exploded, and the wild dog's skull was instantly crushed inward. Electric currents surged through the hammer into its body, completely destroying it, while neurotoxins also spread through its entire system. The giant wild dog didn't even have time to howl before its massive body crashed to the ground, limbs twitching a few times before it completely lost its breath, killing a high-rank mutant beast in one move. The bystanders in the distance were completely stunned. The entire area fell into a dead silence. The way everyone looked at me was now filled only with extreme fear and awe. I shook the blood off the hammer, my expression indifferent. Just as I was about to bend down to inspect the dog's corpse, to see if I could extract any useful mutation materials, that terrifying beast roar from the mountains echoed through the sky once again. This roar was even more violent than the last, sweeping through the entire town with soul-crushing pressure. The ground shook violently, the roadside glass shattered inch by inch, and even the air became incredibly oppressive. The mutant insects and low-level beasts that had scattered were all so terrified that they lay trembling on the ground, lacking even the courage to move. I suddenly looked up toward the mountain forest, my expression instantly becoming grave. In the early stages of the apocalypse in my previous life, there were no mutant beasts this powerful. Is this a variable brought about by my rebirth? Just by the aura alone, I could tell. This beast's strength far exceeded that of the wild dog just now. It was definitely a top-tier mutant beast of the early apocalypse. What on earth is that? Someone let out a terrified scream. Everyone followed the sound toward the forest entrance. In the pitch-black night, an incredibly massive dark shadow was walking toward the town step by step. It stood a full 5 meters tall, covered in hard scales as black as ink. Its head resembled a black bear, but it had 3 sharp, blood-red horns. Its limbs were incredibly thick, leaving deep footprints on the ground with every step. Fangs protruded out, dripping with foul-smelling saliva, and its eyes glowed with bloodthirsty red light. It's a mutant black armored bear. The onlookers completely broke down, losing even the strength to run. They slumped on the ground, trembling uncontrollably. It's over, we're all dead. With such a powerful mutant beast, no one can possibly stop it. The mutant black armored bear scanned the town, its bloody gaze instantly locking onto me. Seemingly sensing the powerful aura from me killing the wild dog, it let out a roar at me, and then suddenly charged wildly. It was so fast it left a trail of afterimages, reaching the center of the street in just a few seconds. A massive bear paw struck at me with immense force, the wind pressure making it hard to breathe. "Quick, get out of the way." The girl I saved screamed out, her face full of despair. My eyes were cold, not daring to hold back. In the slightest, I instantly activated all my defenses. The extreme heavy armor of the ironclad beetle, the hard scales of the crocodile, 2 layers of defense fully stacked, my physical body seemingly turning into an invincible iron wall. Simultaneously, the tardigrade's immortal constitution and regeneration talents were on standby. Facing the bear paw sweeping toward me, I didn't dodge or evade. Gripping the sledgehammer with one hand, bullets 400-fold monstrous strength erupted completely. My muscles tensed up, channeling all my power into the hammer's body, and I smashed it hard against the bear paw. Bang! A loud sound like clashing metal exploded, the shockwaves spreading wildly in all directions. Roadside trash cans and railings were instantly blown away. I was knocked back 3 steps by the immense force, my feet carving 2 deep tracks into the ground. My arm felt slightly numb, but the mutant black armored bear's form also faltered from the hit. Clearly, it didn't gain the upper hand. It was completely enraged, roaring frantically, waving its bear paws again.
In a series of fierce attacks,
Every strike carried world-destroying power, smashing the ground into a pitted mess. Relying on the owl's extreme night vision, I precisely captured every one of its attack movements, dodging flexibly. At the same time, I controlled the high-voltage electricity of the electric eel, hurling bolts of blue lightning at the armored bear. The sound of sizzling electricity rang out, and the lightning struck its black armor, sending countless sparks flying, yet leaving only shallow marks. Pure lightning attacks couldn't break its defense. My gaze hardened. I immediately shifted tactics, bullet, fully activating the poison talent. A faint purple glow appeared at my fingertips. I found the right timing, taking advantage of a gap when the bear swung its claws, my body suddenly lunging forward. I leaped into the air, holding the sledgehammer, carrying the power of coiled lightning and poison, and smashed it hard against the base of the most fragile horn on its head. I poured all my strength into this one strike. Boom! A piercing cracking sound rang out, and one of the bear's horns was instantly snapped off. Poison and electricity flooded into its body through the wound, destroying its nerves and flesh. The armored bear let out a shrill scream, its massive body convulsing violently as blood gushed out. It struggled frantically to counterattack, but was suppressed by both poison and lightning, its movements becoming slower and slower. After landing, I gave it no room to breathe. With a step on the ground, I leaped up once again high into the air. Lifting the sledgehammer with all my strength, I slammed it hard at his head. A sharp, crisp sound of bones cracking echoed. The mutated black armored bear's skull caved in completely. Its massive body collapsed with a thunderous crash. After struggling a few times, it lost the last of its breath. The stench of fresh blood stained the entire ground red. Everyone around stared in shock. I slowly put down the sledgehammer. The lightning surrounding me faded away. My expression remained indifferent. This test is far from enough. But just then, I heard a rush of footsteps and growls from afar. A group of beastified berserkers were charging this way. Their eyes were fixed on the black armored bear's corpse, eyes full of greed. Clearly, they wanted to seize the mutated beast's body. I lowered my gaze to my own hands, clearly sensing that after slaying the mutated beast, my beast transformation ability was quietly getting stronger. Vitality surged through my body even more. Obviously, killing a high-level mutated beast tempered all my abilities a little bit. And in the distance, the berserkers had already rushed to the street entrance. More than a dozen people, each with bloodshot eyes, faces savage and twisted. All had beast-like features. Some grew Volfiers. Some had arms transformed into claws. Clearly, after the catastrophe, they were completely dominated by beast instincts. That black armored bear's body belongs to me. Anyone who tries to steal it dies. The leader was a burly brute with a smashed head. His stance was agile. He carried a blood-stained steel pipe. His tone was arrogant to the extreme. Eyes greedily glued to the black armored bear's corpse on the ground. In this apocalyptic world, the flesh and beast core of high-level mutated beasts are precious treasures that boost power. The remaining survivors saw this and hurriedly retreated in fear, afraid to get drawn into the conflict. Even the girl I saved earlier shrank into the corner, too scared to speak. The dozen mutated ones surrounded me, and the black armored bear's body glared at me viciously. Seeing I'm alone, they grew even more reckless. Kid, you've got some skills. You can kill this black bear, but your luck ends here. That's as far as it goes. Hand over the mutated beast's body and spill the secret of your mutation abilities. Maybe I'll let you keep your body whole. I stood where I was, one hand gripping the wall-demolishing sledgehammer, my expression icy cold, my eyes betraying not a ripple of emotion, just pure amusement. In my past life, it was my cowardice and compromise that got me slaughtered. This time, anyone daring to covet my things will have to pay the price. This is your last chance to get lost. My voice was calm, but carried undeniable pressure. But these greed-blinded mutants couldn't listen at all. You want to die? The brute leader yelled. The mutant shouted angrily and waved his steel pipe, charging at me first. He moved fast as the wind, with incredible speed. In an instant, he was right in front of me. The steel pipe came at my head with a whoosh. The other mutants screamed and lunged as well. Some threw punches, some revealed sharp claws, trying to gang up on me, intent on killing me for good. Facing the siege, I wasn't phased at all. Owl's super hearing fully activated. I picked up all the wind sounds within a few meters. Every footstep was clear as day. I predicted each attack path accurately. Iron Beetle and Crocodile Double Defense kicked in instantly, letting hits land on me. Neither the steel pipe nor sharp claws could do more than spark off me, not even scratch my skin. How is this possible? How is his defense so tough? The brute leader gaped in shock, unable to believe his full-force strike was useless. I wasn't interested in wasting time with them. Bullet Ant's 400-fold strength erupted instantly. I swung the sledgehammer with ease. Bang! A heavy thud rang out. The two in front took the hit from the hammer. Blood spewed from their mouths, and they flew out like broken kites, slamming hard into the ground, passing out then and there. The rest turned pale with fright, finally realizing I'm not on the same level as them. But by now their exit was blocked. All they could do was keep attacking. With a thought, I unleashed the electric eel's high-voltage ability. Blue sparks instantly wrapped around my body, forming a lightning shield. Mutants touching the electricity were instantly convulsed all over, collapsing onto the ground. Then, Bullet Ant's poison spread down my fingertips. I moved swiftly, dodging the chaotic assaults, striking vital spots every time. Pale purple toxin entered their bodies. The struck ones felt numb throughout, limbs stiffening, unable to resist any further. In just 10 seconds, more than half the mutants attacking me fell. Cries of pain echoed constantly. The brute leader was terrified out of his mind. His arrogance was gone. He tried to flee. Leaving, my eyes turned cold. I pushed off with my feet. My body darted forward instantly, far faster than his moves. Caught up in one step, then smashed the hammer onto his back. A bone-cracking thud sounded. He dropped to his knees, completely lost his fighting power. I coldly swept my gaze over the mutants lying on the ground. No mercy whatsoever. The apocalypse is all about the law of the jungle. It's either you die or I perish. Mercy to enemies is cruelty to yourself. After finishing off the looters, I walked over to the bear's corpse and crouched down. Quickly found a beast core near its skull, about the size of a pigeon egg, jet black and glossy, emitting faint energy waves. This is the essence of a high-level mutated beast. Absorbing it greatly strengthens beast transformation abilities. I pinched the jet black beast core between my fingers. Traces of energy flowed into my body. A wave of numbness swept through my limbs. Owl senses, electric eel lightning. On strength, iron beetle defense. Humming with excitement, like a drought relieved by rain. Madly devouring the pure energy inside. The survivors left around me were already terrified. Their eyes toward me full of awe and fear, barely daring to breathe. The girl I saved earlier huddled in the corner, her legs still shaking. But she mustered the courage to take 2 steps toward me, her voice barely louder than a whisper. Are you okay? I ignored her. My eyes swept across the massive corpse of the black armored bear. My heart stirred. The flesh and beast core of such a high-tier exotic beast are the top-tier natural treasures of the apocalypse. Anyone who devours them can enhance their strength. But the risks are equally fatal. Once an ordinary beast shifter recklessly eats the flesh of an exotic beast, at best, their talent becomes disordered and their strength regresses. At worst, their mind is consumed by violent bestiality, turning them completely into monsters that know only slaughter. But for me, with the immortal constitution of a tardigrade and multiple perfect talents, I can ignore the backlash and safely devour the essence of exotic beasts, allowing my combat power to climb steadily. This is my greatest trump card in this rebirth, and I must never expose it in plain sight. Once people know that I can grow stronger by devouring exotic beasts without side effects, it won't be long before the powerhouses and factions of the entire apocalypse flock to me, regarding me as a supreme treasure to be seized. Thinking of this, I suppressed the urge to refine it on the spot, stashed the black armored bear's core and items securely against my body, and prepared to find a safe place to absorb it quietly later. But just then, my owl-enhanced superhearing suddenly captured, from the northwest direction, the sound of dense wind-breaking and heavy trampling. The number was at least over 30. Their auras were violent, far more ferocious than the black armored bear just now. My gaze suddenly darkened. If you don't want to die, hide immediately, I spoke in a cold voice. The survivors woke up as if from a dream, scrambling to rush into the nearest shops and residential buildings, tightly closing the doors and windows. That girl also bit her lip and hid in a convenience store, watching me nervously through the gap in the glass door. I tucked the beast core box into my inner pocket, picked up an 8 kilograms wall-breaking sledgehammer with one hand, lightning and lethal poison swirling around me simultaneously. With dual defenses fully activated, I stood in the middle of the street, facing the imminent beast tide head-on. In the next second, dense dark shadows rushed out of the night. Leading them was a mutated hound over 3 meters tall. Its fur was mottled all over, its fangs protruding outward, its saliva corroding the ground as it dripped. Behind it followed wolf types, leopard types, and wild boars. Dozens of violent exotic beasts had blood-red eyes, brimming with murderous intent. Clearly, they were attracted by the black armored bear's smell of blood and my aura. Courting death, I sneered under my breath. With a stomp of my foot, my figure suddenly charged out. With 400 times the monstrous strength infused into my strike, the sledgehammer swept out with a whistling wind, smashing head-on toward the leading mutated hound. Bang! The hound's skull collapsed instantly. Current and poison invaded at the same time. The beast fell straight to the ground without even letting out a scream. The other exotic beasts roared and lunged forward, claws and fangs biting frantically. But their attacks, falling on the dual heavy armor of the ironclad beetle and crocodile, only produced sparks without even breaking the skin. I did not retreat but advanced, like a tiger entering a flock of sheep. With my lightning talent fully unleashed, blue electrical light exploded into patches centered on me. The exotic beast's bodies convulsed from the shock. The poison slid along my fingertips. Anything it touched was paralyzed. With the enhancement of monstrous strength, every hammer blow could shatter the skull of an exotic beast. Night vision allowed me to move as if on flat ground in the dark. My hearing predicted every attack trajectory. I was like a god of war of the dark night, invincible as I traversed through the beast pack. Blood splattered my clothes, but I didn't care at all. With every exotic beast slain, the talent within my body grew a bit stronger. The energy of the beast cores and the essence of the beast flesh surged through my meridians, constantly tempering my physical body. The tardigrades, immortal constitution and regenerative power were on standby throughout. Even if I was occasionally nicked by a sneak attack, the flesh healed in an instant. After just 3 short minutes, the street was piled with the corpses of exotic beasts. The smell of blood was heavy and pungent. I took a breath, preparing to scavenge the beast cores, when out of the corner of my eye, I suddenly glimpsed a cold reflection flashing from a distant rooftop. A sniper rifle, it's humans! And they are prepared in advance. Beast shifters holding firearms. My heart tightened, and my body instinctively flashed to the side. Bang! A bullet whizzed by, accurately hitting the spot where I had been standing. The concrete ground was blown, leaving a small crater. As expected, there's an ambush. The look in my eyes grew cold to the extreme. In the apocalypse, the most terrifying thing is never the exotic beasts, but the greed and malice of one's own kind. Just as I finished speaking, 3 cold sneers instantly came from the rooftop. 3 dark figures leaped down. Their forms stretched as they landed. They were 3 types of beast shifters: eagle, fox, and snake. Their auras far exceeded those of ordinary exotic beasts. Clearly, they were prepared beforehand, powerhouses who had laid out a careful trap. The eagle man flapped his semi-transformed wings, suspended in midair,
his gaze mocking.
Kid, you killed the black-armored bear and swept through the beast tide. You've got some skill. Hand over all the beast cores on you, and the secret of your beast shifting, and we'll leave you an intact corpse. The fox woman licked her lips. We've been watching you for a long time. One person stacking multiple talents. That's not a secret you can keep. Don't resist, or it will make your life a living hell. As they spoke, the 3 surrounded me in a triangular formation. Their auras locked onto me. They were clearly confident of victory. The survivors hiding around them had their hearts in their throats. The god of war of the Dark Knight, who was invincible just now, was about to be besieged by 3 powerful beast shifters in the blink of an eye. Holding the sledgehammer, I slowly straightened my body, a cold curve hooking the corner of my mouth. Just with you 3? The eagle man's face darkened with rage. You're asking for death. As his voice fell, he shook his wings, and his figure dived down like an arrow. His sharp talons, carrying a fierce wind, clawed directly for my head. At the same time, the fox woman's figure flashed, disappearing into the night. Clearly, she was preparing for a sneak attack. The snake man spat out venom, corroding the air, as it lunged straight at my face. The 3 powerhouses joined forces, their killing intent overwhelming. I narrowed my eyes. All my talents were unleashed without reservation, erupting in full force. Owl night vision instantly locked onto the fox woman's stealth trajectory. Electric eel lightning covered my body, forming a defensive power grid. Infused with ant-like monstrous strength, my legs slammed against the ground to take flight, charging straight up at the eagle man. The British-looking man was utterly terrified. He couldn't believe it. While he was stunned, I grabbed his wings. Using brute force, I twisted hard. A crack echoed as bones fractured. He let out a shrill, agonized scream. Half his wing was snapped off by me. I followed up with a punch straight to his chest. Venom and electricity surged in simultaneously. He crashed to the ground like a severed kite. All life left him. After taking care of one, I landed on the ground, just in time to face the ambush by the curved woman with her dagger. Her dagger stabbed into me, but it was deflected by my heavy armor. Her pupils shrank in shock. She turned to flee, but I tossed her away. A bolt of lightning wrapped around her ankle. She instantly collapsed to the ground. Before she could finish begging for mercy, I smashed her with another blow. She died on the spot. The last remaining snake-like man was scared out of his mind. He turned and fled. Venom sprayed everywhere. My gaze was icy. With a thought, high-voltage currents spread across the ground. Quickly caught up with his legs. The selfish snake, like man, convulsed all over. Collapsed onto the ground. Unable to move, I slowly walked up to him, looking down at him from above. Who sent you? It's the Green Wolf gang. They've established a stronghold in the east side of town. The boss is a Wolf-form mutant. He's extremely powerful. I heard you have multiple talents. They specifically sent us to capture you. At the mention of the Green Wolf gang, my gaze turned cold. It was this gang in my previous life, who rampaged, pillaged, and murdered at the beginning of the apocalypse, committing every evil act imaginable. My old friend died at their hands. Didn't expect they'd come to me in this life. I lowered my eyes to the corpse at my feet, gathered a dozen beast cores and kept them close, turned to head toward their base. Had just taken 2 steps, when a girl's weak voice sounded behind me. The Green Wolf gang took over the biggest wholesale market in the east side of town. There are at least several dozen desperados inside. You'll really die if you go alone. I didn't stop walking, just turned my face halfway. My voice sounded especially cold in the midst of the blood. They're in the east side of town, so they're already dead. With that, I gripped my sledgehammer. My figure moved like a bolt of cold lightning and crashed into the purple-black apocalyptic mist. The fog in the east side was even thicker than the old districts. The scent of blood, sweat, and gunpowder mixed together, clinging stickily to my face. The closer I got to the Green Wolf gang's stronghold, the shrill screams and beastly roars grew even harsher. I stopped 100 meters away. Owl night vision fully activated. My cold gaze pierced the fog, seeing through the makeshift buildings of the grain and oil wholesale market. The steel doors were welded shut. The walls were lined with broken glass and rebar. On the wall, mutants wielding steel pipes and machetes stood guard. Each one looked as vicious as rabid dogs on loose chains. 3 checkpoints in front and back, 3 hidden crossbows, 8 patrol mutants. Inside the deepest warehouse, a ferocious aura like a tsunami lingered relentlessly. The Green Wolf gang boss, the Black Wolf mutant. Last life.
He leveled up by devouring his own kind and other beasts' flesh,
Forcefully boosting his strength. His hands were stained with hundreds of lives. Now he dares to provoke me in this life. Stop! Who are you? I'm here to collect your boss's corpse. As I finished speaking, I stomped hard. Bullets burst out with 400 times the monstrous force. My figure shot toward the gate like an arrow released. You court death. The guard screamed, throwing a spear. The sharp spearhead whistled through the air. I neither dodged nor flinched. Ironclad Beetle combo with crocodile. Double-layered heavy armor fully deployed. When the spear struck my chest, it bounced right off. There wasn't even a single mark. The next second, I'd reached the steel door. Grabbed the door frame with one hand. Yanked fiercely with brute strength. Boom! The welded steel door was ripped in half. Steel plates twisted like scrap paper. The guards atop the wall were scared out of their wits. Just as they were about to call for help, I raised my hand and flicked it. High-voltage currents surged up the wall. Buzz! Several people convulsed all over and fell straight from the wall, passing out cold. Someone invaded the base. It's the monster that killed the black armor bear. The alarm rang out. Dozens of mutated Green Wolf gang members charged out from both sides. Weapons in hand, they rushed at me viciously. Kill him and take his talents. My gaze was icy. Lightning flared violently around me. I swept my sledgehammer across the walls. Boom! 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 The ones in the front were hammered away. Bone-cracking sounds echoed again and again. American electric eel talent at full power. Blue electric light exploded from me as the center. No one survived within 3 meters. Bullets coated the hammer in deadly toxin. Touch it and you're paralyzed. Touch it and you're dead. With double defenses, even machetes slamming into me, sparked harmlessly and claws felt like a tickle. I fought as if unchallenged. Every step I took, someone fell. Blood stained the ground red. It hadn't been 3 minutes before the guards at the entrance were wailing everywhere. Holding a bloody sledgehammer, I walked step by step toward the deepest warehouse. Kicked open the iron door. Inside, the warehouse lights were dim. A dozen survivors shackled by chains, huddled in the corner, shivering with fear. At the center stood a black Wolf mutant over 2 meters tall, sitting on a throne made from oil barrels. His whole body covered in dark brown fur. Wolf eyes glowing crimson. Drool dripped from his mouth. His aura was so chaotic it warped the air.
He was none other than the Green Wolf gang leader Langtu.
Langtu licked the blood from his paw and laughed grimly. Impressive, you actually made it to me. A body with multiple talents must be a great supplement. He glanced at the survivors in the corner, his tone growing even more cruel. These people are all my nourishment. Once I gulp them down, I can move up another level. Now that you're here, I'll devour you too. He suddenly stood up. His figure lunged at me like a shadow. Wolf claws, sharp enough to shred air, aimed for my skull. Speed, power, and ferocity all surpassed the black armor bear from before. My gaze grew serious. All my talents ramped up to full power. Night vision locked onto his trajectory. Hearing predicted his attacks, brute force poured into my arms. Heavy armor covered my entire body. When Wolf claws collided with my arms, metal clashed with metal. Blast waves scattered debris all around. He suddenly stood up. A shadowy figure lunged at me like a phantom. Wolf claws slashed the air with razor-sharp force, aiming straight at my skull. Its speed, strength, and ferocity far surpassed the black-armored bear from before. My gaze turned grave. I instantly unleashed all my abilities to the max. Wolf claws collided with my forearm. A metallic clang echoed. Kilang sent debris flying in all directions. I took 2 steps back. The Wolf's head jerked from the shock. You actually stopped my claw strike? His pupils shrank dramatically. Your defense. I didn't wait for him to react. I took the offensive. My warhammer crackling with lightning and poison swept toward his waist and abdomen. Langtu reacted instantly. He twisted sideways to dodge. His claws slashed at my neck simultaneously. We instantly became locked in close combat. Claws and hammer, thunder and poison clashed relentlessly. In the cramped warehouse, chaos erupted with their collision. The longer Langtu fought, the more shocked he became. His claws couldn't penetrate my defense at all. What kind of monster are you? He went totally berserk. I refuse to believe I can't kill you. Before he finished speaking, he suddenly opened his mouth wide. A black shockwave burst forth. Wherever it passed, shelves melted away. The floor began to sizzle the next second. He was stunned in place, his face full of disbelief. How is this possible? How are you still not dead? There's a lot you don't know. Before I finished speaking, I lunged forward at blinding speed. In a flash, I appeared right in front of him. I grabbed his Wolf claw with my left hand. With monstrous strength, I twisted and broke his right arm instantly. I raised my warhammer high, channeled all my power into it. Thunder and poison smashed down onto his skull. With a loud crack, the Wolf's skull caved in immediately. Black blood spurted everywhere. He couldn't even scream. His massive body collapsed with a thud. After twitching twice, he was completely motionless. All the locked-up survivors stared wide-eyed, their faces filled with disbelief. I bent down and reached into Langtu's head. I found a jet-black beast core inside. I put it in my inner pocket along with the other beast cores. Turning around, I looked at the cowering crowd in the corner. Then I reached out and gripped the thick iron chain. With a gentle squeeze, the iron ring snapped apart on cue. Inventory the supplies. Reinforce the doors and windows. Don't make a sound. No one dared to slack off. They hurriedly got up and started cleaning, carrying food and oil, blocking up the windows, gathering all usable weapons. Only slight shuffling sounds remained in the warehouse. Once everything was in order, I walked into the shadow outside the warehouse. Leaning my back against the wall, I closed my eyes and began regulating my breath. Gentle energy from longevity and harmony flowed through me. My perception, strength, and defense quietly rose ever higher. My aura fully concealed. Not an ounce of killing intent leaked out. When I opened my eyes again, there was a cold, icy chill in their depths. In the distant night, faint, ferocious beast roars echoed. With the owl's keen hearing, I instantly picked out disturbances far off. It's not from dampness, nor from a pursuing group. It's the numbers. Heavily modified off-road engines rumbled in the distance. They were driving down the road toward the wholesale market. The people inside had steady, calm auras. Clearly well-trained. Definitely not ordinary stray survivors. My gaze hardened. I gripped my sledgehammer tightly and slipped behind a pillar, hiding my presence entirely. In these early apocalypse days, anyone brazen enough to drive around was either leftover military or members of a well-equipped large raider group. Either way, they spelled trouble. Moments later, 3 off-road vehicles stopped outside the wholesale market. Their headlights went out. Over a dozen shadows filed out quickly, wielding standard-issued machetes and crossbows, and even 2 homemade shotguns. Their movements were coordinated. They headed straight for the warehouse. The leader's eyes gleamed with an oily sheen. He was a high-level beast shifter in partial beast form. His aura was even more refined than Langtu's. There's a scent of living people inside. And the lingering blood from that black Wolf guy. Get in and search for beasts. Take all the beast cores, supplies, and gifted ones. Got it, the group replied. They quickly approached the warehouse entrance. I stayed perfectly still in the shadows. With my night vision, I could see every single movement, every breath they took, perfectly clear. They outnumbered us. They were well equipped. They also had ranged firepower. And a pretty strong leader. Since my reincarnation, this was the first true armed group I'd encountered. Even if I fought head-on, I'd hold my own. But taking bullets face first would still leave me hurt. Revealing all my abilities recklessly would just be asking for death. Thinking this, I quietly regulated my breath. A barely visible blue current flickered at my fingertips. At midnight, I channeled heaviness, perception, armor, thunder, poison, and brute strength. All my powers quietly charged up at that moment. The warehouse door was gently pushed open. The first figure entered, machete raised. His eyes swept the darkness alertly. I stepped out silently, gliding behind him like a ghost. Before he could cry out, I clamped my left hand over his nose and mouth. My right hand curled slightly. A faint purple current sparked at my fingertip, stabbing his neck. His body instantly seized up and spasmed.
He couldn't even struggle before going limp in my arms.
I laid him down gently, without making a sound. After taking down the first, the second one stepped in right after.
He'd only taken 2 steps forward
When he suddenly brushed against a faint current on the floor. I had already set up tiny electrical traps along the ground under cover of darkness. The weak current wasn't enough to kill, but it made him shiver all over and freeze in place. His movements locked up. I lunged forward from the shadows, swung my hammer wide, and slammed the side into his chest and stomach. A muffled thud sounded. He doubled over and collapsed, falling unconscious instantly. What are you 2 idiots slowing down for? A low scolding echoed. The third member rushed in with his crossbow.
He knocked an arrow to aim,
but was instantly targeted by my owl-boosted night vision. I sidestepped his arrow, closed the distance in a flash, grabbed the crossbow and jerked it upwards. The next second, electricity surged up the crossbow, making him go numb, drop it, and collapse. With 3 taken down without a sound, the hyena-headed leader outside finally sensed something was off. How did 3 get inside without a peep? As he finished speaking, he signaled 4 men to enter in a combat formation, while he guarded the doorway with a homemade shotgun. His eyes were as cold as ice. The four spread out inside to flank and surround. This time I stopped hiding. I dashed out from behind the pillar, hammer infused with momentum in hand. The sledgehammer swept out with a whistling sound. Bang! The person on the far left was instantly sent flying. The other three cried out in surprise at the sight. They pounced with their knives drawn. I neither dodged nor avoided them. Double defense of ironclad beetle and crocodile, fully activated as the machete hacked at my shoulder. Only a trail of sparks was produced, leaving not even a white mark behind. What? The three looked horrified. I backhanded one down with the hammer. Arcs of electricity burst from my fingertips, striking the third person in the chest and paralyzing them on the ground. The last one was scared out of his wits, turning to flee in an instant. I kicked off the ground, catching up to him in a flash. A hand chop struck the back of his neck, completely subduing him. In just 10 seconds, the 7 men who rushed into the warehouse were all dealt with using minimum energy and exposure. The expression of the gray hyena leader at the door changed completely. He finally realized the person inside was not a lamb to be slaughtered, but a lurking beast of the night. You inside? Come out. The leader gripped his shotgun tightly, growling. I know you're strong, but can you withstand bullets? Hand over the supplies and beast cores, and I'll leave your body intact. I walked slowly toward the warehouse door, carrying the sledgehammer in one hand. My aura was as cold as ice. In the darkness, I faced him from a distance. There were nearly 10 people outside, 2 shotguns, and 3 crossbows. The leader himself was quite formidable. Charging out meant getting hit by bullets. Bracing for it would definitely cause injury. Thinking of this, my gaze turned cold, and a plan formed in my mind. You want the cores? Come get them yourself. My voice was calm, yet it carried a heavy provocation. Enraged, the leader laughed. You're looking for death. As he finished speaking, he gestured for his men to spread out and surround me. He took the lead, approaching the warehouse door. The shotgun barrel was aimed dead center at my chest. I stood motionless in the shadows inside the door, night vision fully active, locking onto every step he took. Hearing fully active, catching the faint sound of the trigger being squeezed. Lightning, poison, brute force, and heavy armor all ready to go. 3 steps, 2 steps, 1 step. The leader had reached the door, grinning as he pulled the trigger. Goodbye. Right before the gunshot, I moved in an instant. I didn't take it head on, but leaned against the door frame, while pushing off hard with my feet, spreading electricity on the ground where he was about to step. The buckshot whistled past my shoulder, hitting the shelves behind me. Wood splinters flew everywhere. The leader's pupils shrunk. Before he could reload, a sudden numbness surged from his feet. Electricity. I seized this 1,000-second gap, charging out like an arrow. With the sledgehammer raised high, I didn't aim for his head, but slammed it into his right arm holding the gun. Crack! The sound of bone breaking was piercing. The shotgun fell to the ground. Then the leader screamed in pain, and lunged forward fiercely. The sharp whistle of his gray hyena claws aimed straight for my throat. I didn't dodge, allowing the heavy armor on my shoulder to take the blow head-on. When the claws were deflected, he was actually knocked back half a step. Impossible! His face was full of disbelief. My gaze was icy. There were no more words. I slammed the hammer into his chest. Bang! The leader flew backward, crashing heavily onto the ground and falling unconscious. The remaining men were scared out of their wits. They didn't dare step forward again, turning to flee in panic. My eyes turned cold, and I slowly followed. Not because I wanted to be ruthless, but because in the apocalypse, letting enemies escape is like planting a time bomb for yourself. However, I didn't need to chase them. Using the owl's super hearing, I had already locked onto the trajectories of all the deserters. Even if they hid in alleys or blocked doors, or held their breath, their frantic heartbeats were like fires in the night to my ears, leaving them nowhere to hide. With a single thought, the 800-volt current of an electric eel, spread silently across the dew-soaked concrete. Sizzling currents mixed with muffled groans rang out. In less than 10 seconds, all the scattered thugs were convulsing on the ground, rendered completely immobile. I walked slowly toward one of them. The 8 kilograms demolition sledgehammer rested beside him, instantly creating a shallow pit in the concrete. "Who sent you?" My voice was as cold as ice. He was shaking like a leaf. It was the Blackstone gang boss. "It's Zhang Bao the wild boar. We wanted to rob the Azure Wolf gang, but we didn't expect you to take over their base." After speaking, he swallowed hard, and tremblingly revealed 2 more pieces of news. The brothers who just ran out already called for the main force on the radio. My gaze swept over the survivors on the ground. Exerting force from my fingertips, a poisonous stinger was thrust into his neck. He went rigid instantly, falling silent forever. In the apocalypse, being kind to enemies is being cruel to yourself. Less than 5 minutes later, the roar of off-road vehicles came from the distant road. Piercing headlights cut through the morning mist. 3 off-road vehicles plated with steel charged toward the warehouse. Tires rubbed against the ground, making a piercing screech. The doors opened all at once, and over 20 armed bandits swarmed out. Leading them was a man 2.5 meters tall, covered in coarse hair and half transformed into a wild boar, with 2 protruding tusks, carrying a gleaming machete. It was indeed the Blackstone gang boss, Zhang Bao. He scanned his men on the ground, then looked at me standing alone. First he was stunned, then he laughed in pure anger. "I wondered what kind of tough guy you were to take down the Azure Wolf gang. Turns out it's just a brat whose hair hasn't even grown in. Get out of the warehouse if you know what's good for you. Hand over all the beast cores, and I'll leave your body intact. Otherwise, I'll chop you and everyone inside into pieces to feed the dogs." As he finished speaking, the bandits behind him burst into laughter. 3 shotguns were aimed right at me, filled with greed and disdain. I didn't care to talk, simply uttering a single word. Zhang Biao's smile vanished instantly. Roaring, "You're asking for it." He lunged forward, swinging his machete. The brute force of his wild boar transformation exploded, cracking the concrete beneath his feet. The bandits behind him swarmed forward, and the shotguns were fired simultaneously. Steel pellets poured toward me with a whistling sound. My gaze narrowed. The owl hearing had already predicted the trajectory. I kicked off hard, dodging to the side. Steel pellets grazed me and hit the wall behind, sending stone chips flying. At the same time, the double defense of ironclad beetle and crocodile was maxed out. A dark silver shell glow shimmered around me. Facing Zhang Bao, who was in the lead, I didn't dodge or move. The power of 400 times brute force was funneled into my strike. Raising my arms high, the sledgehammer smashed down fiercely. The thunderous sound of metal clashing made my eardrums throb. Zhang Bao only felt an overwhelming force surging through the blade of his knife. Both arms went numb. The web between my thumb and index finger split open. Blood gushed out. The machete flew out of my hand. His face was full of shock. He was still in a daze. I swung back with my hammer. It smashed hard across his waist and abdomen. Bone cracked. A sharp snap echoed. Zhang Biao's huge body was sent flying several meters. He slammed heavily into the SUV. The windshield shattered instantly. He spit out a mouthful of blood. Killed on the spot. Took out the Blackstone gang leader in a single move. The remaining thugs instantly froze. Their arrogance turned to absolute fear. I gave them no time to react. With a thought, 800 volts of high-voltage electricity burst out. It spread out from me, forming a dense electric net. A few thugs in front tried to rush me. Their feet touched the current. Their whole bodies convulsed. Their weapons clattered to the ground. They collapsed stiffly onto the ground. 2 crossbowmen hiding in the back readied their shots. Just pulled the trigger, but I locked on them with precision. I leaped up, dodged the bolts. Like a wraith, I was suddenly right in front of them. Deadly poison glinted from my fingertips. I jabbed lightly at the back of their necks. Both dropped stiffly without even a scream. The rest of the gang were scared out of their wits. They turned to run to the cars. I sprang forward, swung my hammer again and again. Dull thuds echoed nonstop. With every swing, a thug fell. In less than 2 minutes, over 20 fully armed Blackstone gang members were completely wiped out. Not a single one survived. But just then, a distant rumble of helicopters came from the horizon. I suddenly looked up. 3 Army Green attack helicopters were flying toward the town. Red emblems marked their bodies. I remembered that logo from my previous life until death. It was the official survivor base insignia. This world-changing doomsday disaster was just getting started, and I was destined, in this blood and fire apocalypse, to stand atop the world.